Welcome to FootballGamePlan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, here with Teron Davenport for another edition of Point-Counterpoint, with the Eagles-Dolphins preseason game here at Lincoln Financial Field. Jump right into it. Teron, what were some of your offensive takeaways starting with the Eagles?
Yeah, a couple things stood out to me. I think really seeing Torrey Smith and Carson Wentz connect on the deep pass here in front of the fans was something that needed to happen. They had connected a few times in practice, so that's something that you want to see. But most importantly for me, and I know that didn't have a factor on the game, but seeing Donnell Pumphrey get to settle into a rhythm and the flow of the game, because he's that type of back. Everyone sees his size and they think, oh, well, he's not the guy that is a bell cow that needs to carry the ball back-to-back carries. But today, in fact, you saw that. Also, it was good seeing him work in the slot. He had 5 catches, 37 yards. 2 of those were for first downs on 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 7. So those are all good things. Those are signs of what they drafted him for, and he's showing exactly what they liked about him. So it's good to see that. That's probably my biggest takeaway, seeing him settle into that group.
Yeah, a lot of people just look at his size and instantly want to say he's Darren Sproles, but if you watched him at San Diego State, you saw him carrying the football 30 times, sometimes 40 times a ball game, so he can handle a load. I also looked at the tight end position. I'm a big fan of the personnel. Even though Billy Brown didn't play tonight, you still saw Trey Burton, Zach Ertz. You also saw Selleck out there as well. So, again, this tight end group, I believe, is one of the best, if not the best, in the NFC East.
It's a really good tight end group, and I know, when you say NFC East, Jordan Reed comes to mind, Evan Ingram, the newcomer, but when you look at Zach Ertz and Trey Burton, and you saw Ertz actually get some yards after the catch today, so that's a really good sign. So I definitely agree with you. The blocking side of it is there with Brent Selleck. Man, when they get Billy Brown in the mix too, he's a guy that is really a threat across the middle, and working the middle of the field, using his big body. His hands are ultra reliable. He may, and I'm going out on a limb, but I'm telling you folks, he may have the best hands on this team, the most reliable pass catching ability.
Now, see, we were at the East-West Shrine game, and we saw Billy Brown give those defensive backs fits all week long. They couldn't handle his size, and he moved inside the tight end as an NFL player, but he already has the natural receiving skills that you look for. And I know everybody is waiting for me to say what I think about Carson Wentz, but to be honest, here's what I thought about Carson Wentz. The placement has to be a lot better.
And he admitted that. He admitted that when I asked him about that on the crossers.
Because you see a lot of receivers diving for balls, and it stopped receivers in their tracks. That's why placement is important. Now, on the deep touchdown pass, good job hanging tough, standing tall, getting outside, waiting for that safety and cornerback to miscommunicate, and he threw the ball deep to Torrey Smith. I don't mind that it was underthrown, but I like that he hung out there and waited, not quickly went to the dump off. But his placement on his passes has to get better. We saw a lot of receivers diving for balls, stopping in their tracks. That can't happen on a consistent basis if you want to move the football down the field.
Right, and not only if you want to move the football down the field. Obviously, that's most important. But what's the question that everybody asks me when they're asking about Carson Wentz? What does it take for him to get to the next level? What does it take for him to take the next step? These are exactly the type of things that he has to be able to do to get to the next step. You have to be able to throw to your receivers and allow them to run through the catch and get those yards after catch. You have to be able to throw the deep ball and not make your receiver slow down for the ball. That was something, if in a different situation, that doesn't score for a touchdown. So you have to be able to lead your guys, and a part of being an elite quarterback is making your receivers better. And in this case, he didn't exactly do that.
And you look at the offensive line, and we talked about this throughout the course of the game. I thought the offensive line did some good things from a pass protection standpoint later on in that first quarter, maybe in the second quarter, but overall the effort was inconsistent. Guys weren't finishing blocks, guys weren't getting the pass rush out the way. Carson Wentz took some hits. I thought the offensive line didn't have their best effort tonight.
I have to agree with you, and Dylan Gordon specifically disappointed me. He had 2 tackles in the game, and that's not something you're supposed to do on offense, folks. So that's definitely a case. You pointed out another block by 78. I forget his name. Pardon me, but I think I don't want to misjudge somebody. I forget his name, but 78. He really could have, if he made that block, Donnell Pumphrey has extra yards. But instead, he's tackled for a minimal gain. So, yeah, you're right. They definitely have to get that together. I think it's good finally seeing the group together, the starting 5. But they're going to have to play better against the Redskins on week 1.
And you look at the Dolphins' offensive takeaways in this ball game. I thought Jay Cutler looked very athletic, looked spry, looked a little young. You like his quick release, and I also thought Jay Ajayi ran the ball well. I can't really explain why he runs so well, but he just gets yards. He's a chain mover. He's bouncing off defenders. I thought those two guys, to me, stood out the most.
I'm going to go out on another limb, and I'm going to say this offense is better with Jay Cutler at quarterback. And you saw it today, the biggest play from both teams, the 72-yard reception to Devontae Parker.
Right.
I don't think that's a throw that Ryan Tannehill makes. Because I don't think he has the
velocity
guts
to get it
to
deep
do
down
it,
there, right?
But also the velocity. And I'm sorry, I don't care what people say about Jay Cutler. He has the cannon to be able to make those throws. And I think you're going to see an increased amount of production from Devontae Parker as a result of that. But then also I like the way that they were working Jarvis Landry, whereas they started him out outside, they motioned him close, and then they also they were using somewhat of a closed formation and letting him be the number 1 on the outside and just giving him an opportunity to do what he does best, and that's route DBs. And you saw him route Ronald Darby, which is not the easiest thing to do, but the double move got him, and it was a big gain, a better throw. That's an even bigger gain. So I think this offense is actually better with Jay Cutler. If I was a receiver for the Dolphins, I would be happy right now. I know everybody likes Tannehill, and you know he has the attributes that we all like, but I think they're better with Jay Cutler.
And we talked about the offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles, but quiet as kept. The Dolphins' offensive line had their issues all game long, first and second half, against this Eagles front four.
And you saw Vinny Curry with a sack. You saw Chris Long, I think, quietly played a really good job against the run. He set that edge really well. A couple times he made the running back reverse field. The one time Rasul Douglas came up and made the tackle for a loss. So I definitely think that this Eagles defensive line was able to have their way. And it's something that Fletcher Cox, initially he had a really good couple. He was in the backfield, forced a tackle for loss. Another one, he forced the running back to string it out a little bit. So you saw what happened in practice carry over to the game. So that's a good thing for the Eagles defense, bad thing for the offensive line. So we'll see what happens, because that's something you have to protect Cutler, because that body language will start to show.
Exactly.
His performance will change.
And you saw a significant drop-off in production on the offense once Cutler was out the game. Passing game really was non-existent. Outside the big play to Jakeem Grant, where he broke 2 tackles and outran everybody to the end zone.
Speed kills.
It does. And you didn't see any of it in the backfield once Jay Ajayi left. So moving on to the defense side of the football for the Eagles, looking at this team totally, I think it won't be a hot take to say, but this may be one of the best, if not the best defense in the NFC East.
I think it could be a top defense.
They're deep.
And I know Ronald Darby had a tough game, but the things that he allows them to do as far as using Rodney McLeod, Malcolm Jenkins, these are really good guys coming off the edge, coming the inside gaps. You could blitz them now because you don't have to worry about the 2 deep. You could allow Ronald Darby to turn and run and play the ball. Like, he has ball skills, he just can't catch the football.
Right.
So there's a difference between the two, but I think this defense can be good. And I think that the bread and butter, the meat of this defense is that front 7, specifically that front 4. When you put Timmy Jernigan and Fletcher Cox next to each other, Fletcher Cox is a monster. You know, and then you have the rookie coming along, Derek Barnett. So you saw Steven Means as a depth guy too. Vinny Curry even came to life. So that front 4, I think, is going to be really good for them. That's going to be the meat of them. But you can't forget about Michael Kendricks.
Right.
And this outstanding preseason that he's having. What you saw today is something that he's done since the first week. And he almost had the sack strip. They're blitzing him now. This is another thing that you could do when you trust your guys on the outside. You can blitz your linebackers a little bit more. So you're starting to see Schwartz do that, and that's kind of elevating his game. You see Kendricks having a little more pep in his step, playing with a little more fire, more emotion, and more speed. So that's also a good thing. I think they'll be really good. The safeties are outstanding as well. Corey Graham has been a major factor for them, allowing them to do other things personnel-wise also.
And you didn't see any drop-off in defensive play. I know the score was 38-31, but defensively I was impressed with how they maintained a level of pressure, the level of aggressiveness, and the level of execution. You didn't see any blown coverages, any bust in assignments with the second or third team. We can't say that about the Miami defense. Now, moving on to the Dolphins defense, I thought one of the biggest takeaways was how defensively up front, I saw some good things from Jordan Phillips. I know he's been a guy that's been getting a lot of hate from Dolphins fans alike and things of that nature because of how he's played. He's allowed a first-year guy to come in, Devin Godchuk, who also played well. Terrence Fede played well. Wormley played well. So I thought their defensive rotation up front was fine, but I was kind of skeptical. I thought Kiko Alonso, their linebacker, looked lost in coverage all night long.
Yeah, their linebackers as a unit were lost in coverage. Number 44, I forget who he was, but you had mentioned it. The guy looked like he was literally asleep. I mean, he was just standing there in coverage. He had dropped back, and then he turned, and he was just standing there, and they were able to complete a pass. I think it was to Burton, but that's going to be their problem, the linebackers. I like Xavier Howard as a corner. Maxwell has his issues. You saw the miscommunication on the deep touchdown to Torrey Smith, but then he also had piss-poor defense on Alshon Jeffrey on the touchdown, the slant. So that's going to be an area they have to improve. I don't think he sticks after this year. We talked about that in the press box. But the linebackers specifically, Kiko has struggled in coverage. This is not something new to what I've seen from this team this week. He has struggled all week. So that's definitely something because they're going to match up running backs out of the backfield, tight ends, and they're going to win those matchups.
And I look at the cornerback play. You talked about Byron Maxwell. Again, those two busts led to points. You could have a bust and at least a first down, that's fine. At least a 7-yard gain, that's fine. But when it leads to 14 points, you become a liability. So they're going to have to hope they get help. Now, a couple of guys didn't play, obviously. They hope that they're healthy by the time the season starts, but we'll see. Let's just look at some players of the game. Offensive player of the game for you for Philadelphia.
Wow. I have to go with Torrey Smith. And I know he had one catch, but it was a 50-yard catch, and it was a deep catch, and that's what they needed to show. So I would have to say Torrey Smith.
And I'm going to go with the entire group of tight ends. I was just impressed at how they worked those tight ends in the ball game. Trey Burton, Zach Ertz. And again, once you add now Selleck blocking and Billy Brown in the regular season, but those two guys, Ertz and Burton, I thought did a good job tonight. Defensive player of the game for the Eagles, I'm going to give it to Michael Kendricks. Did a great job. I mean, he had the interception. He was all over the field. And every time he made a play, it seemed like the press box was cheering for him. They wanted him to make a play, and he definitely capitalized on his opportunity tonight.
Yeah, I would agree with Michael Kendricks. I will give honorable mention, though, to Jalen Watkins. This is a guy that he's played safety all throughout. Last Friday, he moved to corner. He's now the second unit, left corner. You saw the interception. And then I talked to him after the game, and I told him good job on the interception. But what I liked even more was the open field tackle on third down. Bringing down that running back, Damian Williams, stopping him from getting the first down, forcing the team to punt. Those are the type of things that, he had to get better at in the past. And you see him come out and do well in that. So Michael Kendricks for sure, but Jalen Watkins, you get an honorable mention.
Offensive player of the game for the Miami Dolphins, I'm going with Devontae Parker. I tweeted it out during the game when it happened. He looked like Louisville Devontae Parker. We saw him pull away from Ronald Darby en route to almost getting into the end zone, but I thought they did a great job all game long. I was just impressed with he looks like he's back athletically, and he looks healthy, and he did a great job tonight.
Yeah, I would say Devontae Parker. I think Jakeem Grant deserves mention as well because just the way that he was able to spin off of that tackle and just accelerate for that touchdown. I mean, as soon as he had 2 steps, he was gone. There was no disputing that he was going to score. So that was also a good thing.
Once he put that head down, it was over for him. You put that head down, you about to get maximum speed and hit the touchdown. Defensive player of the game for the Dolphins, I'm going to give it to Jordan Phillips, man. He had the fat guy interception and almost got into the end zone, but I like how he responded to the pressure all week long. Oh, Devin Godshaw is taking his job. He's a rookie. Jordan Phillips was a high pick, but he stepped up big tonight. He played some good football.
Yeah, it's tough to look at anybody other than him. I would say Andre Branch had a couple nice plays earlier, but I mean, I don't want to agree with you with everything, but yeah, I'm going to have to say Jordan Phillips also, just to see him get that interception. And like you said, live up to the opportunity. He got to start today, and he needed to show that he could still be in the mix. Yeah, coaches say ship up or shape out. And before we leave, Teron, where do we go from here if you're the Philadelphia Eagles? Well, from here, I think you just continue to try to work on the chemistry with Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Nelson Aguilar. This is something that definitely bothered me. Nelson didn't get one target, so they have to figure out a way to get him in the game. You know this is someone that in the past has had the issues here, so you have to keep feeding him or at least give him some touches somehow. So I think where they go from here, they continue the chemistry, continue working to run the football. They need to get Donnell Pumphrey involved more also. So that's what you want to do, you know, on the offensive side of things. Defensively, just continue to dial up the pressure. They've shown that that's what is the best for them. So get another couple good weeks of practice in. You're going against a Redskins team without their left tackle, Trent Williams. So I think that's going to help them be able to, you know, play better on defense. We'll see what happens.
And I think for Miami, what you would expect these guys to work on, communication on the back end is going to be huge. Back seven has to be able to communicate. They can't give up big plays in the passing game. And on offense, I think they're going to be fine if they go with that up-tempo, maybe that 2-minute offense for the whole game. I like how quickly Jay Cutler can make a decision and throw the football. Those guys can work themselves open. So defensively, they got to work on the communication. Offensively, I think they do a great job of just pushing the tempo and the pace, and that'll keep Jay Cutler in the game. Again, they can slow it down if they want to with their running game, but their passing game, I think, is probably going to be the reason why they are a winning football team this season.
Yeah, a lot invested on the guys up front, too. So, you know, they could, whichever way they have to go, that offensive line has to be able to lead them to it.
Well, I know you're out there every day at Eagles practice. I'll be at Giants practice. But when we come together, it's always a good session with Point Counterpoint. That's Ron Davenport, USA Today Sports, Philadelphia Eagles, Eagles Wire, Emory Hunter's Art Playbook. Follow him on Twitter at @TDavenport_NFL. I'm at FBall Gameplan. And we'll catch you next time at some stadium somewhere around this place.